Hello.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. All right. You too. Good morning, Senator Muskers. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm just going to update you. There is a long security line downstairs. So we have some participants battling through that line. So we're waiting for our speakers from DECD to come on up.
Okay.
We're going to run through some IT right now, but I think if you can hear me and I can hear you, it sounds like we're all set.
Yep. Perfect.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
I'll just connect this. Okay, that did, okay.
I can talk like this. There you go. That worked one. Try that one. There you go.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It's not going to be both.
And you're still broadcasting, just in case.
How can I help you?
I can hear someone.
It looks pretty sanguine, honestly, and it's not simple. I would say if no one emptied it out.
En reunión.
I'm not the area.
Okay, Representative Meskers, we have all speakers in attendance. If you'd like to call the meeting to order, we're good to go.
Okay, on behalf of the Commerce Committee, I'd like to thank you all for this session or this public hearing on manufacturing. I call the meeting to order and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Representative Meskers. This is Paul Avoy, Connecticut's Chief Manufacturing Officer. And we're very lucky on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we are joined here in Connecticut by the America's Manufacturing Communities Collaborative, AMCC. And I'm proud to introduce Matt Bogosian, who is the Executive Director, who's going to take you through really what's happening at the national level as it relates to manufacturing. And then I'll follow that up to what we're doing here in the state of Connecticut. So good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Paul. And I want to apologize. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Paul. And I want to apologize for my croaky voice here. I hope it doesn't diminish the importance of the message. My name is Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC. And what I want to do is talk about the community of practice designation that AMCC has earned. And it's because it's in part a Connecticut story. Through the ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan, the Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration created a national manufacturing community of practice, and AMCC was designated as that community of practice to help regions, states, and regions around the country organize smarter around strengthening the manufacturing ecosystem and the manufacturing sector. And if we could go to the slides, thank you. The story that I'm going to tell is part of a Connecticut story. And this first slide in 2014, so after the Great Recession, there were several federal initiatives focused on manufacturing. One of them was doing something unique, was trying to create a new model for federal intervention, a bottom-up model, whereby communities around the country were organized to build public-private partnerships to strengthen the manufacturing ecosystem. You can go to the next slide there. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And you could see there three things that they were asked to do is organize a diverse public-private partnership, conduct a regional strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat analysis, and come up with a regional plan that strengthens what we identified with the National Economic Council as 6 key component parts of a thriving regional manufacturing ecosystem. And the good news is there were 70 regions around the country that organized, and Connecticut was one of those. And 24 of those regions were designated, and for 2 years working with the best evidence supported by federal agencies, but it was really run and driven bottom up by Connecticut manufacturers and the ecosystem of support providers around them. So what happened is that in 2018, those regions not only connected within Connecticut, but the Connecticut region connected with the other 23 around the country, exchanging best practices, realizing that it's not a race to the bottom, that by working together, we can lift each other up. And of course, the federal agencies supported it, but it was led by Connecticut and led by other regions. After the initiative sunsetted, Connecticut and the other regions self-organized into AMCC, this American Manufacturing Communities Collaborative, and helped to develop new federal interventions that we're seeing now to, again, incentivize regions to self-organize their manufacturing communities and bring their stakeholders together to produce more collective impact. You can see at the bottom of this slide, 4 of the very big pieces of federal legislation that you're familiar with: the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Plan, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. And, you know, so much of this work, this is evidence-based policy making. It's bottom-up intervention, evidence-based policymaking. And so this is really complex systems science that we're really understanding better how to make our interventions more or have our interventions be more predictive in terms of the outcomes we want to produce. This is a list just from one agency. This is the Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. And you guys are familiar with this, with the Good Jobs Challenge, and some of the others that are now coming out. The bottom 2, the Tech Hub program and the Recompete pilot program. The Tech Hub program that was signed by President Biden in August of last year, it has $500 million first. That's the first tranche of a $10 billion authorization to help regions around the country do the same thing that we started in 2014. And the good news in Connecticut is that you all are proving the case that for these new federal interventions, and you are already organized to take advantage of some of them. Next slide. And it's not just the Economic Development Administration that there are many other federal agency incentives, interventions that are following the same model. You can see the one there from the Department of Defense that you're familiar with, the Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program. That's to strengthen the defense industrial sector, because we're in an existential crisis, in a competition, international competition, and we have important information from our DoD friends about the weakness of the defense industrial base. And so strengthening that here in Connecticut and throughout the country is important. It's one of 6 key sectors of the manufacturing area, key industries within the manufacturing sector that need to be strengthened: defense, energy, transportation, agriculture, communications, and health. Those are key areas. And it's tricky at the state and regional level. There are these federal interventions that come from siloed federal agencies. And so the trick is, how do you weave them together, bring together local, regional, and state leadership to effectuate the outcomes? This is more details about our federal designation as this community of practice. We've been almost 10 years since we've been doing it. We're free, open source, evidence-based community of practice. And there are others focused on other programs, but we're the only one dedicated and designated for manufacturing across the United States. You can see there in the first bullet, these are, federal government acronyms of all the different programs. There are many, many others. And Of course, you have state interventions that you're needing to weave into it as well. You can see on the federal investments, of course, the manufacturing extension partnerships, the Manufacturing USA Institutes, the economic development districts. We have a partnership with the Argonne National Laboratory to understand the metrics around the importance of the manufacturing ecosystem and how we can benchmark and improve that ecosystem. So lots of good hard work ahead of us with NGOs. And of course, our manufacturing partners. Those are the key ones in all of this. This is an important slide to kind of frame how we make progress. On the left there is, of course, in the 20th century, we thought of, just economic development. But that is what we can see now is insufficient, good, but insufficient. And that there are other aspects for sustainable development that we need to weave into our integrated decision-making. That's economics, of course, but diversity, equity, and inclusion, environmental sustainability, and security. And then in the middle, you can see the 6 key industries within the manufacturing sector that, the White House and these supply chain reports have done an effective job in laying out, if America is to thrive, if Connecticut is going to thrive in the 21st century, we have to be adding value on all of these areas. We need to be doing well in all of these areas. And then on the right side, this is these are the component parts going back to the 10 years of work that we've identified as critical for any region in America to have a thriving manufacturing sector. And you can see, workforce training is right at front, but right on top, but it's more than that. It's having an integrated ecosystem, and we're very thrilled to see how Connecticut has not only led in the development of AMCC, but has invested along the way at the state government level with investments in strengthening the manufacturing ecosystem in the state, in creating a chief manufacturing officer in Paul Lavoie, and a whole slew of stakeholders that are more integrated than what has ever been the case. And, the rest of America needs to see the success of Connecticut to learn, to get up to speed, to follow Connecticut's lead in strengthening the manufacturing ecosystem. And Connecticut can continue to benefit from its leadership within AMCC and learning from other states around the country, other regions around the country. How do we weave this together for more collective impact? It's complex system science, but by working together, we can get there. So I'm really here to say thank you. We're delighted to be hosted here with your exceptional manufacturing stakeholders who are leading the way. AMCC has weekly calls with Connecticut stakeholders, but with those around the country. And we are doing these regional visits to share what we have learned in other states and what we're hearing from our federal stakeholders with the states, with Connecticut. That's what these meetings are for, because we need to integrate these efforts to compete, against dictators and thieves out there that are threatening the American project. So we look forward to next steps, and I am delighted to be followed by your Chief Manufacturing Officer, Paul Lavoie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. And just to give everybody an idea of what we're been covering for the last 2 days, we spent the morning yesterday at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology with Ron Angelo and Jackie Garofano and their team there. And Jackie has joined us this morning as well. She's the Chief Technology Officer at CCAT. We've also spent the afternoon with Constep, which is Connecticut's MEP, talking about supply chain and supply chain resiliency. In the morning, we talked about innovation. And then this afternoon, we'll be meeting with the Office of Workforce Strategy to talk about workforce. And I'm joined today by our Chief Workforce Officer, Dr. Kelly Valeries. And then also Carmen Molina Rios from DECD has joined us as well. And Matt, Carmen has been on your advisory board since how long? 10 years? At least 10 years. So Connecticut has been involved with the AMCC at least 10 years by having Carmen's representation on the board as well. So what I'd like to do is just really take you through how Connecticut's manufacturing strategy really folds nicely into the national strategy that the United States has for manufacturing. So Carmen, if we could go to the slides, please. That's not the right one. Growth through innovation. That's okay. We can talk about workforce. So the Connecticut Manufacturing Strategic Plan contains 3 pillars. But what's most important about Connecticut's Manufacturing Strategic Plan, which was released in late February, early March 9th, it was released to everybody, is that the Manufacturing Strategic Plan in the state of Connecticut is built on a foundation of innovation. From the work out of the Industry 4.0 working group, the realization came that in order for Connecticut to continue to maintain our competitive advantage in manufacturing, and I'll share with you some of the things that validate that competitive advantage, we need to continue to innovate. And we need to innovate as it relates to workforce. We need to innovate as it relates to supply chain resiliency, and we need to innovate as it relates to growing our industry. And those are the 3 pillars of the Manufacturing Strategic Plan: workforce growth and development, supply chain resiliency, and industry growth, all on a foundation of innovation. And the reason why that's important is that Connecticut leads the national agenda in manufacturing. We are number 1 in aircraft engine and air parts manufacturing. We are number 4 in productivity. We're number 4 in the most innovative economy. And we're number 3 with the most educated workforce in the country. So we are the state of innovation. We are the state that continues to design and develop cutting edge products around all kinds of industries, including defense, medical device, chemical processing, food. We certainly go on and on with the diversity of manufacturing that we have here in the state. You know, I say all the time that we punch above our weight class, you know, and it comes to Connecticut as there are 4,368 manufacturers here in the state of Connecticut. And, you know, as we're about 5,400 square miles. So as I like to say, you can swing a wiffle bat, which is made right here in Connecticut, and you can hit one of us when you swing that bat. So when you look at the manufacturing employment base, we have 160,000 people working in those 4,368 manufacturers, but yet 40% of those people work in the top 25 manufacturers. So if you look at the remaining people working in companies and smaller companies, our average is well under 25 in the manufacturing sector. And we continue to be a driver of Connecticut's economy as we're a significant amount right now. We're 13% of the GDP of the state, with plans to grow that in the next 8 to 9 years to 20%. And there's $19 billion of federal money that comes into our defense sector last year for us to continue to build really the most sophisticated equipment and machines that protect America. And the other stat is that 80% of our manufacturing, 80% of our manufacturers make 100% of their products here. So we're very much focused on Connecticut manufacturing. The Manufacturing Strategic Plan has 2 really big goals. One of them is to increase manufacturing employment to 235,000 from 161 in 2023. That is a 4% compound rate. That also includes some calculations for attrition, but we want to be able to continue to grow our workforce here in the state. And the other is to grow our GDP from 13% to 20%. And again, if you look at the 3 pillars of our Manufacturing Strategic Plan, it is about workforce growth, supply chain resiliency, and industry growth, all supported on a platform of innovation. So I want to talk a little bit about those pillars and what we're doing as it relates tactically within those pillars. So you can go to the next slide, Carmen. So when we talk about innovation, we're really talking about how we continue to drive innovation through everything that we do. And what I mean by that is when we talk about workforce and we talk about workforce growth, I want to talk a little bit about how innovation weaves into what we're doing as it relates to workforce growth. In the manufacturing strategic plan, we talk about workforce growth and workforce development. Now, when it comes to workforce development, we have we don't have one of the, we have the most robust workforce development program in the country. Now, certainly that is my opinion, but I'll share with you the words of Kevin Graney, who's the president of Electric Boat, who called Connecticut's workforce development system a national treasure. So when it comes to workforce development, Connecticut does it right. Can we be better? Absolutely, we can be better. Will we be better? Absolutely, we will be better. We measure ourselves against ourselves, not against what other states are doing. But when it comes to workforce development, we need to recognize that we have infrastructure in place to be able to develop a workforce. What we need is throughput. We need more people that are coming into Connecticut to be able to move into our jobs in manufacturing. We can get them excited about those jobs. We can skill them up. We can get them ready, and we can match them to employers who need these people. But we need to get more people. And I know that this legislature, our chief workforce officer, the legislature, the governor are all working on legislation that's going to look to see in how we can grow our workforce, how we can increase the labor participation rate within the state, but also how can we attract people to come to Connecticut for the great jobs that we have. The third piece of workforce is workforce innovation, and it's recognition that we are never going to solve the workforce problem with people. It is a national problem. On a national basis, there are 2 jobs available for every worker. Connecticut, that number's a little bit less. Last I've seen about 1.2, 1.3, but it doesn't matter. It's a national problem. So we need to take a look at innovation and how we can use Industry 4.0 technologies to drive innovation within the manufacturing sector to get things done, to increase the productivity and efficiency of our manufacturers by using machines, by using digital transformation, by looking at additive manufacturing to replace tool makers, not to replace tool makers, excuse me, using additive manufacturing to do tool making because we don't have tool makers, and then to look at robots and cobots to be able to work collaboratively with workers that we have. You know, there's a manufacturer here in Connecticut that every workstation has a cobot, and that cobot, which is a cooperative robot, makes boxes. So it makes boxes and puts it on the production line so the people who are assembling the parts can put it in the box. The reason why this company did it is they could not find people to make boxes. So they're now using cobots collaboratively with human beings. We need to continue to drive that innovation to be able to solve our workforce problem. When it comes to supply chain resiliency, it's all about how do we help manufacturers reduce the cost of doing business, and how do we help them shorten their supply chain. So we launched a product here in Connecticut called Connex, which is a supply chain database, which is supported by the Manufacturing Innovation Fund and implemented by our partners at Constep to do exactly that, to shorten the supply chain, to make it easier for companies to do business with each other, but also to expose Connecticut manufacturers to national opportunities as well. This is a national database that we're tapping into. And in addition to that, we want to support reshoring efforts as well. You know, I was out at a manufacturer on Monday, and he was a distributor of parts, and he was buying all his parts from China. And then he decided to selectively start manufacturing some of those parts here. So he now runs 6 machines that make the plugs and wires for lamps. And he also has 6 machines that make other plant parts. And what he's doing is he's slowly taking stuff he was buying from China and he's making it in his own distribution center. He put a new addition on the back in manufacturing. And it just occurred to me that I'll call that silent reshoring, because nobody knew he was doing it until, you know, the equipment manufacturer said, you have to come see what he's doing. It's a company called Grand Brass down in West Haven. But we have a lot of people out there that are silently reshoring. And so we want to be able to look at how we continue to support that, continue to bring these jobs, bring this work back here to Connecticut, but also to make our supply chain more resilient and to make sure that we're shortening the supply chain. We're looking at cost reduction areas in areas of transportation. We're looking in areas of healthcare and areas of energy. And, you know, we're looking at energy consumption and how we can reduce energy consumption. And CCAT, the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, is working with UConn and other university partners on how we reduce energy consumption on the manufacturing shop floor. We need to work with manufacturers to help reduce the cost of doing business, to make it more effective and more efficient. They're getting really hit from a supply chain perspective on raw material prices, rising energy prices, rising healthcare prices, and they don't necessarily have price elasticity with their suppliers or their OEMs that they're supplying to be able to recoup that. So we've got some very, very structured activities around supply chain resiliency. And then the third pillar, based on our foundation of innovation, is really all around industry expansion. And how do we grow manufacturing here in the state? And the first way to grow manufacturing is to be able to support the manufacturers that we already have here in the state that are already making products and are already delivering great high-paying jobs. And we do that through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, which is supported by over the last 8 years, $100 million investment from the legislature. And we hope to continue to with that investment so that we can invest in small and medium-sized manufacturers through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, that we can go to our larger manufacturers and talk to them about how we are helping make their supply chain more resilient and allow them to shorten their supply chain as well and forget them to be able to reduce costs. So we have initiatives in place from our largest manufacturers down to the smallest manufacturer to be able to support them on a growth strategy, be it workforce development, innovation, or making their supply chain more resilient. And then there's business attraction, and we work very closely with Advanced Connecticut, Advanced CT, our partner in business attraction, in attracting the businesses to Connecticut that make sense based on our high level of innovation, our high productivity of workforce, our highly educated workforce, and the industries that we excel. Some of those initiatives that I've talked a little bit briefly about, and I'll go through these. All of these are on the Office of Manufacturing website. So if you go to manufacturing.ct.gov, we have stood up a Office of Manufacturing website that was launched on March 10th that includes all of these programs, including Connecticut's Manufacturing Strategic Plan. And it is the one-stop shop for all manufacturers that are really looking for the resources that they need to be able to grow their business. You know, as the Chief Manufacturing Officer for the state, my job is to be able to create an environment where our manufacturers can do what they do best. And that is where they can make parts and they can hire people and provide great, high-paying, life-changing careers for people in the state of Connecticut. So I want to share with you some of those programs that we've launched that are going to help manufacturers do that. I talked briefly about the Connex database and how that is going to connect all manufacturers in Connecticut together. That is provided to all manufacturers at no cost through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. So every manufacturer should be building a profile, and they also have national access as well. On the Office of Manufacturing website is a Help for Manufacturers page where they can go and look at service categories. So if they're looking for help in exporting, they can click on exporting, and it gives them all of the resources in the state that are available to help them solve their issues as it relates to some of the key problems they may be facing. We launched a Manufacturing Ambassador program. Very, very excited about this program. I encourage everybody to become a Manufacturing Ambassador. And the Manufacturing Ambassador program is designed to educate and inform anybody who's passionate about manufacturing about what really is going on in manufacturing. As your Chief Manufacturing Officer, I hear all the time half-truths and just flat out false statements about what's happening in manufacturing. So the ambassador program is designed around making sure that we educate everybody in Connecticut about what we make, who makes it, why we make it, and why it's important, so that when somebody says manufacturing is leaving Connecticut, why would you invest in manufacturing? I have a team of people, boots on the ground, that will be out there saying, you know, that's not true. That information is not true. I'm a manufacturing ambassador, and this is where I got this information. There's no other expectation other than if I send you something interesting on manufacturing, read it. And then when somebody says something that's wrong, correct them. But we launched the Manufacturing Ambassador Program. We launched it March 1st, and we are at 275 ambassadors and growing. So it's my goal to at least get to 500 ambassadors and to continue to grow the ambassador program. And then there are other, having conversations with some other folks about doing other ambassador programs too in other industries to be able to support some other industries that we have as well. So this can become a model for us in Connecticut to really continue to talk about some of the great news that we have going on in the state. I talked about the website, a little bit about money for manufacturers. The next page, Carmen, please. So this is really around the Manufacturing Innovation Fund and the money that we have. We have 22 programs that support manufacturers. We have 6 grant programs. They are matching grant programs, and those are all administered by our partner at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology. And those programs are all designed for manufacturers that are 300 employees or less, or with the exception of our manufacturing voucher program, which is designed for manufacturers that are 100 employees or less. And that is a $100,000 matching grant program that they'll use to be able to buy equipment or be able to improve their business. And we get a significant multiplier as it relates to these investments that we continue to make in manufacturing. I'll give you a example, a case study that we learned yesterday through one of our programs, which is the additive manufacturing program. We gave a $100,000 grant for additive manufacturing to a Connecticut manufacturer. And that is a $100,000 matching grant for 3D printing of parts. And they took the grant, implemented the program. They worked very closely with the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology and CCAT on building a program where they can make parts using additive manufacturing. It's opened up new markets to them. And we learned yesterday that they were just awarded a $10 million contract, followed by another $4 million contract for new business that they're doing at a significantly increased rate of profit margin. So we've taken that $100,000 additive manufacturing investment and turned that into $14 million of business for an organization. And that's just the first wave of business that company will get. And that company is 70 employees. So they'll just give you just a little bit of information about the impact that the programs have as well. And then the other program that we launched is the governor announced it in February. It's called Forge Impact. And Forge is an ecosystem that's designed to take innovation in Connecticut and provide people with all of the resources that they need to be able to innovate. So from napkin to commercialization, if anybody in Connecticut, any inventor in Connecticut, or any company that wants to launch a new product and has an idea and has a design, Forge, which is here in Connecticut, supported by our partners at CT Next and supported by the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, Forge will then give them wraparound services to be able to take them from an idea all the way to commercialization. So if it's invented in Connecticut, I want it prototyped in Connecticut, and I want it made in Connecticut. And we've launched Forge Impact for us to be able to do that, to be able to keep innovation in the state, for us to continue to drive innovation, but to make sure that our entrepreneurs and our innovators are fully supported here in the state as it relates to manufacturing, so we can continue to maintain our leadership position as it relates to being the state of innovation as well. So the resources that we have available for manufacturers include, next page, Carmen, these are links to the Office of Manufacturing, to Connex, Money for Manufacturers, Manufacturing Ambassadors, and Service Providers. So you simply put your phone over one of these QR codes, take a picture of it, and it'll take you right to that resource. All these resources are also at manufacturing.ct.gov. And I would like to take a moment to recognize the team that works on manufacturing. So if you go to the next slide. So when we talk about all of this work has basically been done in the last 13 to 14 months. And the team that is really behind doing this is, I get to be certainly the face of the team, but we're supported by Michelle Hall, who's a program manager, and Carmen Molina Rios, who's a economic development specialist within DECD. And this is the team that makes up the Office of Manufacturing. So while we may be small in number, we are mighty in output in making sure that we're supporting the manufacturing ecosystem. And of course, everything that we do here from a slideshow is available from the slideshow is available through the Commerce Committee, in addition to the Connecticut's Manufacturing Strategic Plan, again, which is on the website. So I would really like to give my sincere thanks to Michelle and Carmen for the work that they've done to build this infrastructure that will support manufacturing. And we're very, very excited about all of the collaboration that we have with the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, with CONSTEP, with CT Next, with the Office of Workforce Strategy, with Ready CT as well, all who manage programs for the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. And we all are collectively engaged in working together to grow manufacturing in the state of Connecticut. And it's all designed to create maximum impact at scale. Thank you very much.
So I guess I'll kick it off. As I was listening to the presentation, I want to thank you for the presentation. As we step forward and look at manufacturing, and I'm sitting obviously as the co-chair on the Commerce Committee, I have a couple of concerns, and I'd like some commentary and thoughts from you guys in relation to, you know, I have a light touch or light experience on commerce. I've been, you know, in the assembly for 5 years, going into my third term. And what I find most confusing about the state and the organizational structure is it relates to workforce training and development. And there are either too many acronyms or too many people or too many hands in that. And whether it's through education, back to work, workforce training, et cetera. When I look at manufacturing, there's two arms. One is the innovation, regulation, expansion of manufacturing opportunities, the supply chain, the getting the supply chain coordinated, getting online help for manufacturers. But the thing I've heard consistently from manufacturers, and this can go from basic manufacturing to advanced manufacturing, is the pipeline of the workforce. And I guess what I'm looking for, and I don't know if I'm in the right venue, so I will take that. You can tell me to forget it or not. Is what I'm interested in is how we're addressing the workforce pipeline. And the two concerns are we getting those students who are coming out of high school into that workforce? Are we working in the right programs to move them, whether it be for what I would describe as less advanced manufacturing and more advanced mechatronics, et cetera? How are we moving that pipeline along? And what do we need to get done there? Because what I'm looking for guidance from the manufacturing group is a punch list. So there's, you know, when I look at your report, what I find is goals and percentages of where we want to get to. But I want to know how we're going to get there and what are the achievable goals, right? So that was long-winded. That threw a lot at you. So the pointed questions are, where's our program, or what's the program on in terms of the workforce development? Where are the holes in the workforce development? Where do we need to get stuff done? And in relation to both, you know, community colleges, our vocational tech, VTech, and or is there a standalone thing we need to be doing? Because I'm trying to get an idea of how we coordinate that workforce and provide the supply chain. Because I heard a lot of complaints in the manufacturing sectors about the skills shortage or the physical workforce shortage. So I want to get people, and the final piece on that is when I look at it, the biggest piece or the biggest opportunity set is in our disadvantaged communities, you know. So we talk about all our major cities, and we talk about inclusion. The diversity inclusion for me becomes a simple one at some level as a goal. It's getting everybody into the pipeline and into a job and into manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. So, God, I'm gonna shut up because that was like a 10-minute roundabout question. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Thank you, Representative Metzgers, and we got it all though. So what I'd like to do is kind of just address, and I brought with me my partner, Kelly Valerie, is our Chief Workforce Officer. I think it's important to note that the Connecticut's manufacturing strategic plan is tied tightly to the Connecticut State Workforce Plan, and vice versa. So Kelly and I are working hand in glove. I'll let Kelly talk a little bit about workforce development, but I'll also go back to my earlier comments about workforce growth, in that we have a lot of capacity within our system. And then the other thing that we're working on, and Kelly and I are working on together, is what we call industry-led education. And that is engaging the industry with our educators so that they can understand what skills are needed. So the experience that I've had is where manufacturers tell me that our education system isn't supporting the skills that they need in their manufacturing businesses. My next immediate question is, have you met with them and have you told them what your needs are? And usually their answer is no. I said, well, then come with me, because you're going to go and you're going to meet with them, and we're going to sit down and we're going to build these bridges between industry and education, because our educators, all they want to do is educate successfully. And whatever the definition of that is, has to come from industry. We must have industry-led curriculum development, industry-led education. And we have done that extremely well through EWIB and the Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative, which is all industry-led workforce development. So, so I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. She can certainly enhance those things, but also give you more color as to what's happening around workforce development and manufacturing. And then we can talk a little bit about the cities as well.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that question. So the Office of Workforce Strategy was established to be the an implementation entity for the Governor's Workforce Council's strategic plan. That strategic plan is a comprehensive plan that is one business-led, making sure that businesses are at the center, as Paul mentioned, informing our educational institutions what they need in their workforce. And it is also focused on equity, access, inclusion, and diversity. We also are very data-driven, making sure that we're building the data systems that we need in order to understand what is working, what isn't working, what the outcomes are, and the investments. So there's a comprehensive plan there with 19 initiatives that we're working to implement. Specifically to manufacturing, and I'm not sure you know this about me, but I own 2 manufacturing companies, and I was one of the founding members of the Eastern Advanced Manufacturing Alliance, building the Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative. And I'll share a little bit about that experience and why that is a best practice. That was a group of manufacturing companies that came together and decided what were the key skills, knowledges, and abilities that were common amongst manufacturers. We put together a training program in partnership with our 2 community colleges in our area. That was Quinebaug Valley and 3 Rivers. We worked very closely with the Eastern Workforce Investment Board. They were our conveners. And going back to the designation of an industry practice community, EWIB was one of those practices of communities back in the 2014 timeframe. We built that pipeline program with a portal that anyone who is interested could go to that portal, sign up, and get into those manufacturing programs. We started with 4 cohort courses, and this coming up year, EWIB will be running 80 cohort courses. These are all programs that are informed by industry for, again, those common goals and needs, and then very specific technologies on top of that. What we've done with the Office of Workforce Strategy in 2 different initiatives. First, being business-led, we set up regional sector partnerships across the state of Connecticut. EMA and the AMAP program in Eastern Connecticut and in Central Connecticut were pre-existing RSPs, and we established 3 others to ensure that business was at the center of the table and was informing those training programs. We also took that model that we had and we applied to the EDA, the Economic Development Agency, and we received one of 32 grants for $23.9 million to enhance our regional sector partnerships. Now,
Excuse me, is that a federal grant?
That is a federal grant. Yes.
Thanks, sorry.
There was 509 applications, 32 awards, and Connecticut had the largest award of any state. And that was really based on the foundational work that we had done building these partnership programs, which the federal government is very focused on partnerships between economic development, workforce, and education, making sure that we're coming together and building out these systems. As Paul was mentioning before, it's the ecosystem. And so as we're implementing these programs, the $70 million Career Connect funding that was state allocated ARPA dollars to the Office of Workforce Strategy built out Career Connect. Career Connect has established a single portal for the entire state of Connecticut. Anyone interested in going into job training programs has one place to go. We're marketing this program very focused on our communities, our underserved communities, making sure that our message fits the profile of those people who have historically been left behind in the workforce. So trying to expand the workforce and trying to ensure that we have additional diversity and equity in our workforce. This program removes barriers to entry, providing access by providing opportunities for support in childcare, transportation, access to technology, housing, food securities, and then connecting people who are going through these job training programs, which also include basic skills remediation, if necessary, professional skills development, cognitive development, support services, focused specifically on people who are reentry communities and other marginalized communities to ensure that they're supported in these training programs and have a pipeline directly to an employer. So that's what we're doing on the side for people who are out of school. What we're doing for people in school is we're taking this this pipeline program and we're bringing it into the comprehensive high schools. Specifically in Eastern Connecticut, they've taken the manufacturing pipeline innovation curriculum and brought it to 19 high schools, comprehensive high schools. And we're also utilizing some of that Good Jobs Challenge EDA funding to expand those programs. So these are opportunities for high school students to engage in these programs in comprehensive schools. What we're doing with the technical schools is the job training is taking place in Eastern Connecticut at Grasso Technical High School. The programs are being available to the high school students during the day and to adults in the evening. We're also working with our comprehensive schools, not necessarily building out expensive manufacturing facilities in all of our schools, but building bridges for our comprehensive high school students to access the amazing facilities, either at our technical high schools or at our community colleges. We're also very closely partnered with our community college and our state educational system with regards to manufacturing. Connecticut has been designated as a manufacturing center for the whole United States with additional grant funding. And there's a high level of coordination between the community college programs, the work that we're doing with non-credit, bridging stackable credentials to credit, and then building bridges to higher education through either programs at Southern in manufacturing or engineering programs. So we're really trying to take all of the pieces and ensure that there's access and on and off bridges for all people, whether you're a high school student or a graduate student, and anywhere in between, opportunities to get the credentials that you need to reach the career ladders that you need, and making sure that those bridges to employment are built into all of those training programs. So there's a job at the end. So the Career Connect funding and programs launched in earnest in January. We have over 100,000 people who have come to our landing page. We work very closely with the Office of Workforce, the Office of Manufacturing, to ensure that their marketing program is tied to our marketing program. So half of the traffic that comes to our website is driven by the Made Here campaign. And we're funneling people into the portal to sign up for jobs. We have over 5,000 people in that portal currently. And if you look at that compared to, say, the manufacturing pipeline portal that was focused strictly in Eastern Connecticut, they've got about probably 15,000 people so far, but that is over the course of since 2015 when that portal launched. We're at 5,000 in less than 3 months. So we know that we're going to be able to drive people into these programs at all different educational levels and provide those pipelines directly to employment.
So basically your commission is misnamed. It sounds like it's the Office of Workforce Strategy and Execution, ultimately.
Thank
right?
you very much. That is our goal, is to implement. And
well, it's more helpful when the name stands out, because we haven't had as much of a conversation. And I'm thrilled So should I, one, dial it back or understand basically that you're in the process of rolling out the execution strategy over the last year with the funding you've received. So a lot of these programs are just beginning to come down the pipeline. So I should be looking at this as probably the execution arm over the next year to 2 years as you're building it out, right? Is that fair assessment?
Yes, absolutely. And just to be clear, there were a lot of great programs already in place, but they were
Right.
very regionalized and difficult sometimes for people to understand what was actually available to them. So we're leveraging the existing programs and scaling the best practices and then filling in the gaps in those places where we need to change up curriculum or add curriculum and programs to meet the innovation of the future, those mechatronics programs, additive manufacturing that we really haven't built out in Connecticut yet. And those programs, we're in the process of working with our educational partners to build right now.
Correct.
So I'd love to continue the dialogue on a monthly basis in terms of, I'd like to work at making commerce the bridge away from the executive and into the legislative body to make sure we get the robust support that we need, or understand the mission so that there is, that it's not just a request from the executive in the budgetary line items, but that there's an embraced support from the legislature. Because I think conceptually we're there, but we're not getting the asks. I think the standard is DECD to the governor's budget, and we probably would lean in it on a regional, individual, and a group basis for various of the initiatives. That would be helpful. So we should start thinking about that. Personally, I think that would be a good strategy.
We'd welcome that engagement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Representative Liz Lenahan has your hand raised for a quick question.
Yes, hello, good morning. Thank you for being here today. I am not a member of the Commerce Committee. I'm a former member, but I am a member of the Manufacturing Caucus. And since 2017, I have put on an event known as the Student to Manufacturer Connection Fair at the Capitol. I went to go visit a manufacturer in my district at that time, and I said, hey, what can I do to help you? Their answer to me was essentially that they continue to go to tech schools and high schools during their job fairs or college fairs, but what they find difficult is that no one is coming to them. So what we did, along with Senator Hartley, and now we're happy to welcome Representative Rochelle as a co-sponsor as well, we are busing in students from technical high schools and comprehensive high schools into the Capitol to meet with manufacturers, large and small, to talk about the pipeline, what they can actually achieve. Every time I talk to parents and I say, did you know that your student or your child can actually have a very high paying career of up to $65,000 per year out of high school with absolutely no college debt? They're shocked. And so I've really made it my personal mission to introduce parents to the wonders of advanced manufacturing. You know, they've always thought that it's kind of dirty and assembly line, and they're not understanding exactly what this advanced manufacturing is. So to that end, we created this event. We have not had it for the past 2-3 years because of COVID. So this is the first time it's coming back. We always sell out. We have manufacturers all along the first floor of the Capitol, and we've bussed in over 500 students in the past. This year is the first year that we're opening it up to middle school students as well. We recognize that middle school students may actually need to learn in advance what courses they need to take if this is something that interests them. And then additionally, we're going to have a special handout this year aimed directly at parents to let them know what manufacturing is and why it's important for their kids to get involved. So I'm telling you all this because it seems like everything you've said about workforce development fits right into the event that we've put on here at the Capitol. And I'm so thrilled to be bringing it back this year. So I think essentially what's happening is I'm going to contact each one of you, ask you to partner with us this year and make it even bigger. We're looking to actually grow the event and have more manufacturers. And you mentioned the mechatronics. The last year we had it, we did have mechatronic groups from around the state come in and display what they do in an effort to get students who aren't a part of that interested, right? So we're all trying to build engineers and CNC workers and really introduce everyone to what this is. I hope that I've given you an idea of what the event is. Can you tell me, as we are developing this, because it's May 10th, I would love to have more manufacturers in if we could partner to do that. And we'll bring all the students in. Given that high level info that I just gave you, and you may not have an answer, is there something you think we're missing that we should be adding to this year's event to ensure that we can get as many people interested in taking the courses needed in middle school and high school and into college if they want a community college, or even to get into the pre-apprenticeship program with DOL for this? Is there anything I'm missing that you want me to put into the May 10th event?
So I'll just, Representative Lennon, I participated in this event when I was running Carry Manufacturing. So I'm very, very familiar with the event. And it's you've done an outstanding job in putting this event together. It's very exciting to see the kids come through, and it gave us an opportunity as a manufacturer to talk to the kids, but also, being in the Capitol, it also allowed all of us to engage with you as well to help understand what manufacturers are looking for. And I am very happy to help you recruit manufacturers if you need to for this event as well. So I would certainly be willing to make personal calls to some of our manufacturing community to ask them to come, and I know they would all come. Every time I do that, they're more than willing to come and to talk to kids. The only thing that I'm looking at from a kind of a systemic approach to getting people excited about careers in manufacturing is there's a program called First Robotics, and it's called First Lego and First Robotics. It starts in kindergarten, goes all the way through high school, and it really is all about mechatronics and educating. But it is it is a club sport for kids who are interested in being engineers. And they actually get together and they have to build robots and compete with those robots. And I've asked First Robotics and Ready CT to give a proposal to the Manufacturing Innovation Fund to support a statewide First Robotics program to get kids excited about working with their hands and getting involved with Industry 4.0 technologies, so that when they go to a manufacturer and they see those technologies, they already can make that direct connection between what they've seen in school, what they've done in their club, the robotics club, and really what's happening in Connecticut manufacturing. So to get manufacturers that are doing some of those advanced innovations within their organization is important, but it's also important to introduce those to kids earlier. I had a conversation with the dean at the University of Hartford who said students coming into his robotics program aren't prepared because we don't have the robotics infrastructure in our high schools, comprehensive high schools, or in our tech schools. And we're working, and by the way, these programs exist out there. They already exist, and Connecticut does a tremendous job with First Robotics, but they're generally not supported well, or they're supported by industry. And I really want to look at making that a kind of a systemic approach around that as well. So,
well, I will tell you, as chair of the Children's Committee, I'm really interested in that as well. Go Mecha Rams in Cheshire. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that part further, and anything that my committee can do to support that in conjunction with Representative Meskers and Senator Hartley. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and all these programs are funded through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. In the way that we look at that through our partners, so through Ready CT, we'll be looking at that. So again, the continued support of the Manufacturing Fund is Manufacturing Innovation Fund is greatly appreciated. Excuse me, Kelly. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can I try?
Sure, go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
That sounds like a great event. And in terms of the rationale to bring parents there. We're working across the country to get the discussion about manufacturing at kitchen tables. And not only are manufacturing jobs good paying and bring dignity, meaningful roles in meaningful work, but bringing American purpose behind what we're doing on manufacturing, just like we did, in World War II and in the 60s in the space race. We're at an existential crisis on several fronts, and this is an American project. And bringing a meaningful role to meaningful work is also an important rationale. So celebrate your work. Look forward to hearing good things about its outcomes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Representative Kara Rochelle.
Thanks, everybody. And I love everything about this discussion today, and I'm happy to be a part of this caucus and efforts partnering with all of you. I just wanted to I guess, respond a little bit and add to the conversation around the work that's being doing for workforce advancements, particularly for manufacturing. I've been on commerce and on higher ed and employment advancement since my freshman year, so I'm in my third term now, and have loved working in this arena with all of you around making sure that we are being responsive to industry that needs employees and being responsive to creating meaningful, strong career paths that can really help to build out the middle class and help to support our collective future in Connecticut. So a couple of things I wanted to flag. One, I see that Kelly Valeris has stepped out, so I'll speak well of her in her absence. She's been wonderful as far as being somebody who is always available to share her ideas, always willing to partner with our committees, and really has been a force, not just for organizing around workforce issues, but in keeping us connected and being willing to strengthen that partnership. I know there's been discussions about, how we kick things off this year and what we're looking to do to kick things off next year, to really have these policy discussions early on each session. And as I'm on higher ed and employment advancement, this also, speaks to the fact that we're making an effort, not just on the Career Connect front, which is amazing and very needed and a smart way to address the issue. But we're also looking to expand the PACTS program. Right now, as you all know, young people in the state of Connecticut coming out of high school can go to community college debt free, and we have some of the best manufacturing training programs in the country in Connecticut, which we're very proud of. But we're also looking to expand that program to adults who may have gone to some community college and, through what happens in life, right? Maybe somebody had a child or a sick parent or something happened, they dropped out of school, then now they want to go back, or they finish and now want to go back to get a different degree. We want to make sure that those who are looking to advance themselves can do so. So we're looking to expand the PAC program this year, which should help with filling those workforce gaps and getting folks upskilled in industries where we need them. And I also wanted to just plug and just give my appreciation to the Office of Workforce Strategy. In addition to the folks they've had on particularly high demand sectors, they're also looking to do and have set aside funding in their budget to do outreach in areas that have had persistent unemployment issues like mine. They've been responsive to concerns of saying, how do we move the dial, in this area? How do we make sure that folks are aware of it? How do we find people? So there have been discussions about commercials at gas pumps and other ways to really get people where they are and raise consciousness about these programs. I have had residents say, well, I don't know how to better myself. And once we tell them about these programs, the light bulb goes on and they get excited. And then they actually legitimately do get involved in these programs. But I think that it is a testament to the work that's being done in DECD and the work being done in OWS that you're finding people where they are and then pulling them into this process and getting them excited. And I also wanted to just thank Rep. Lanahan for letting me join her in co-hosting the event this year. The manufacturing event brings a lot of excitement and hands-on. I mean, we've got robotics flying through the air and kids doing virtual reality soldering and all types of fun stuff. They look forward to it every year. The schools look forward to it every year. It really makes manufacturing special for these kids. And so I love the effort that we're all making and hope that next year, before session starts, we can all get together, Higher Education and Employment Advancement Committee, Commerce Committee, Children's Committee, and Education Committee, and can have a global discussion around how to engage folks at every single level. And you know, we know that we've got the best and brightest in Connecticut. Let's make sure the entire nation knows that we've got the best and brightest in manufacturing. Thank you.
Well, that's what we've spent the last day and a half telling Matt. So Connecticut leads the way, and we'll continue to do that. Are there any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, thank you very much for the opportunity for us to introduce Matt and the AMCC to the Manufacturing Caucus. We appreciate your attention. We always appreciate your support as we continue to work to grow manufacturing here in the state of Connecticut, and we look forward to continued engagement. Thank you.
Thank you.